Those are monumental shifts that you brought up, two of them, NIL and transfer portal, and they're ongoing, and we as an entity, those of us that are in the sport are working through them. There also is a gigantic shift happening in terms of the structure of our sport this fall. Two things. One, obviously the expansion to a 12-team playoff, and the Big Ten expanding all the way out west and becoming one of two, let's face it, super conferences that we have, a mega conference in college football. Now, Coach, this is me talking here. I believe that Penn State is in a position to benefit maybe more than anybody else from those two things that are happening in college football. And the reason that I say that is that if you just take a quick snapshot of the recent past, 8 years, 10 years, you'll see that no team in America would have made more playoffs than Penn State if it would have been 12 teams versus 4 of the teams that did not get in. You're also in a division that was incredibly lopsided and in a conference that we all knew all the strength was in the East with the 3 relevant brands and programs that could actually win a Big Ten championship, and yet they were stuck in one division. So now you're not going to have divisions in the Big Ten, and you've got a 12-team playoff. That's why I say I think Penn State, I think your program is in a position to really flourish in the next few years in particular.
Well, good. I'm glad you feel that way. I agree with you. I mean, obviously, whether it was the year we won the conference championship and didn't get in, or years that we had really good years, it's interesting because things have changed so much, right? You go to the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl is not a part of the playoffs anymore. And it doesn't seem like as big of a deal. Yeah. Where when we grew up, you go into the Rose Bowl, I mean, you just had a phenomenal year. So I think it's going to be good for college football. You could make the argument in some ways, and I'm not trying to go down this path, but the more teams we can have in, the better, because I do worry about the bowls and the teams that don't get into the playoffs. Is that going to be even more challenging than what it's been in terms of opt-outs and things like that? But yeah, I think we're very aware of kind of where we're at. I'm still getting comfortable with the whole idea that we have, Pac-12 teams, in the Big Ten.
Well, now they're just Big Ten teams. Right?
I know, it's. I'm still working through it. Like, we're out here and welcoming them. How come when Maryland and Rutgers joined the league, we didn't go to Atlantic City, New Jersey?
You didn't go to the boardwalk?
Yeah, we didn't do that. So I'm not totally sure about that. But I do think once this thing settles, which I think it's starting to do that, I do think it's going to make for really exciting football, really great games. That are going to be captivating. Yeah. We're about to play, arguably, maybe one of the most exciting schedules that Penn State's ever played before when you talk about regular seasons. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about, and I think we have to be careful as college football coaches, ADs, analysts, fans, that you focus on the things you struggle with rather than the positive, because there are a lot of positives.
I totally agree with that. I think that in a lot of ways, and I've said it on this show countless times, we're on the precipice of a real golden age of the sport, at least I believe. You brought up something, this definition of success. I've been pounding the table for this. I actually have made the argument, I think that the 4-team playoff in a lot of ways was a detraction from the sport, because it minimized the number of programs that could define themselves as successful. Yeah. You could no longer go to the Rose Bowl and say that was a great year if it wasn't in the playoff and you weren't one of these 4 teams. So in a lot of ways, the expansion is important. Penn State, you would have been in 6 of the last 8 playoffs if it was a 12-team format versus the 4-team format. Just from a definition of success and a perception standpoint, how do you think that would have changed where you're sitting and the perception of you, your program, as it stands?
Yeah, dramatically. Let's be honest, dramatically, because programs like Penn State, and however many there are out there, the playoffs made things even more challenging, because now the definition, to your point, has shifted. It was playoffs or bust, which also makes some of those games challenging when literally your players are being told by the fans and the media that you have one loss, the season's almost over in some ways. So I think it's really long term going to be really good for college football. I know it's going to be good for Penn State. Yeah. And I also think it's going to create some, fantastic matchups in the playoffs.
I agree.
So I think there's going to be some unique games and unique opportunities that are presented.
To that point, I keep thinking about, these years where you guys were just outside of the 4. Well, now that position would be a host of a playoff game.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about Beaver Stadium in December. Bring anybody in the country. I don't care who it is. Bring anybody into that environment. I've been to that stadium. I just ranked your environment the #1 most difficult environment in the Big Ten. I strongly believe that. It's loud. I talk with opposing coaches that have to go in there with excellent teams, and they are nervous about playing your squad in your building. And I keep thinking about this idea of Penn State hosting a playoff game, and I'm like, man, that would be incredible.
It's funny you say that because I'm sitting at lunch just a minute ago, and all the coaches, have you selected your whiteout game yet? Because nobody wants to get selected as the whiteout game, which I get. Obviously, in a perfect world for us, we'd love that to be a night game. Just those white jerseys and the night sky.
You don't want to see me because that means we're kicking at noon.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging. So that's taken a lot of time and strategy. But yeah, I think your point is a great one. You're going to have some teams that are going to get buys based on their rankings. Then you're going to have the next highest ranked teams for a home playoff team. And if you're a Northeast team, there's a huge advantage. No different than a few years ago. I was worried about going to Auburn to open the season.
That's exactly right.
Like that's not a great environment for Penn State. That's not a great climate for Penn State at that time of year. It's just hard to prepare for that. We got that big old stadium with all the exposed pipes. That's one of the reasons why we're doing some of the enhancements to the stadium right now, because literally that stadium can't really support itself in certain times of the year in terms of all the exposed pipes and things like that. So I think it'd be fantastic. There's a lot of things that we're still working through in terms of these playoffs are not like bowl games like we're used to. It's like an away game. Well, if you're traveling across the country and you have to practice there, where are you going to practice? There's some logistics that still have to get worked out, but I could not be more excited about the opportunity to, first of all, have a bye, but if not, a home game at Beaver Stadium would be phenomenal.
The structure moving forward, I think in 26 and beyond, if you win your conference, get a bye, you should also host a play. I think the second round should be hosted on campus as well. I'm a fan of campus football because I come to these games and stadiums and environments, and I see not only the advantage that it gives the home team, but also the joy that it brings the fans. To root for their team in their building.
Well, the bars and the restaurants and the hotels in State College, Pennsylvania would agree with you.
Exactly. And that shouldn't be minimized, by the way. The economic impact that those games could bring to a lot of these cities.
Which some of those things, again, I think would help with the fans and the fan base and the community getting their arms around the understanding of how college football has changed when they're receiving some of the benefit from it as well.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And that's the playoff. We're also, like you touched on, expanding the Big Ten. Have you prepared any differently for what this conference could look like, will look like? And how do you think this is all going to play out in this expanded league?
Yeah, we spent a ton of time. You've probably already done this, but if you look at the numbers, East Coast teams flying west, whether it's college or NFL, the win percentage is not very good. West Coast teams flying east is a little bit better. So what can you learn from these NFL teams that have done it? What can you learn from these college teams that have done it in terms of the best way to do it? Are there some policies that have to change at the university in terms of, you'd be amazed, some of these schools have policies in terms of when you can leave for an away game. The fact that I think we all went through COVID and done online classes, that helps with some of this, but when should you leave if you're playing a West Coast game?
Right.
Hotels, travel, all of it. So we've done a ton of research on that. We've gone out and done all the site visits as well. And then that also goes back to the playoff question as well. Practice sites and things like that. If we're going to play on the West Coast, we play USC this year. Do we need to go out early enough, 2 days in advance, adjust to the time zone, adjust to the weather, but then you need a practice site. So we've done a lot of research, but I think it's like anything else. Until you actually do it, that's when you're going to have a better idea of what works and what doesn't.
Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.